every time you tap, a cut goes to one of these companies here. Cash use is going down year over year, and Mastercard is doing great. Until maybe all of a sudden, maybe they won't be. I'll start with their financials, an overview, and finally some key factors that could affect their future. By the way, most of this is from their annual report, which is a 100+ page document, and I know that you're not going to read it, so Merry Christmas. Mastercard is in the credit card processing industry. Let's say you're at Best Buy and buying a PS5. Once you tap your card on the terminal, works the same online too, by the way, it goes to Mastercard and they ask the issuing bank, do you approve this transaction or no? These are a few examples of credit cards. For each one, I'm going to give you 2 seconds to guess which one is the issuing institution. First one, 1, 2, JP Morgan Chase. Second one, Wells Fargo. And the last one, American Express. The issuing institution is generally the one that actually gave you the card. And as for the network, it's shown generally right about here. For example, for my credit card, the issuing institution is... Did you really think I was going to bring out my credit card on camera and show you guys? Come on, I'm not that stupid. If the transaction is approved, the money is sent from the issuing bank to the acquiring bank, which is also the merchant's bank. For example, in Best Buy's case, whoever Best Buy banks with, that bank, minus whatever fees they have to pay. And how often do you think this happens? Every single day. Revenue growth is very steady until the that incident. Right after that, though, the revenue started growing even faster. And think about it, it's logical because they make money from a percentage of the total transaction plus a certain dollar amount. If the dollar amount per transaction goes up, they make more money as well. But hold your horses, because that's not the only way that Mastercard makes money. They make it through first the payment networks, which is the one I just explained, and also value-added services. The value-added services category is data analytics and cyber solutions. This is also growing at a very fast pace. Let's move away from talking about dollar amounts to how money is spent, because things have been going good and might even get better too. Here's the thing, you don't have to be a level 100 historian to tell that cash use has been going down over the recent years. This graph in 2016 shows that cash use is on the decline, while credit and debit usage is on the up. Mastercard is in both of these, by the way. That is perfectly logical, because with cash, you have to worry about theft. With cards, well, if you lose it, you just cancel the card, and any unauthorized charges, well, you just call them and get it removed. With cash, you also have to carry coins, and only psychos like those. Who likes buying a $2.12 chocolate bar and paying with a $5 bill and getting 17 coins? No one. In 2021, that number is at 20%. Now it's at 16% and is projected to decrease even further, and I would believe it. Just do realize though, it is still a prediction. Internationally, credit card ownership is also up. According to a study by the World Bank Group, it's up 10% over 10 years. 10% of the world's population. What is that? 800 million. That's just below countries 3, 4, and 5 in terms of population combined. Net income is also on a positive track. They make more money per dollar spent. They started off at $4 billion in 2016, and that's been going up year over year, except for 2 years out of those 8, and now it's just a little over $11 billion. What about competition, you may ask, because they aren't exactly alone in this industry. Well, I don't know if you've heard of this, but there's a small company called Visa. They started within a decade of each other, and they are competitors. Visa has 39% of the market, and while that is substantially ahead of MasterCard, they aren't too far behind in third place. And if you're wondering who is second, that's UnionPay. They're a giant player in China and also internationally, although they aren't exactly as popular in the US, for now at least. This graph from Capital One say they comprise of 34% of total global transactions, although they aren't exactly a public company, so I'm not going to go too deep into them. I'm not going to dive into Amex and Discover too, because quite frankly, Visa is just a much better comparison, because Amex and Discover also issue cards, and that just, it complicates things. Back to Visa, I'm going to compare the stock price, because ultimately, there are people who are a lot smarter than me and have a lot more time than me, who have spent a lot more energy than I have into figuring out what exactly the value of this company is, and ultimately that's reflected in the stock price. I'll add Amex for reference too. They've clearly all outpaced the S&P 500 index over 8 years, and MasterCard has gone above and beyond both Visa, Amex, and the S&P. People have high expectations for MasterCard in the future given their PE ratio, and the total returns performance-wise and dividends-wise are MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and the S&P. MasterCard is accepted slightly more internationally, but at this point, we're just splitting hairs. Because how many times have you been to a location that accepts MasterCard, but not Visa? The real concern for MasterCard is government. They were banned in India from giving out more new cards because they mishandled consumer data. And while that ban was lifted, that poses a very real threat for them now and in the future. Generally, countries want to promote their own card networks over that of foreign countries. And can you really blame them? Their credit card network revenues could see a little snip coming soon. While it may not seem like it, 1 to 3% of all credit card transactions is a lot of money. The industry is filled with a few big players, and it's not as if they've never been sued by merchants before. By the way, a merchant is anyone from Apple to some small business owner who sells bread. Can you think of an industry where it takes a lot of money to set up the infrastructure initially, but it takes not much money to maintain, and it's very just inefficient and a waste of resources for new companies to get into that? Can you? Utilities. I'm pulling this straight from my behind, but it is something to think about because they have been sued for monopolistic practices too, and it does kind of make sense. But the thing is, government moves very, very, very slowly. And as for the CEO pay, I feel like I have to mention this. He got paid $16, $21, and $26 million over the last 3 years. That is 183 times the median pay at the company, and let's go back to the business. They've also dipped their toes into the security industry. I did already mention that they were in this industry, but I just have to mention the advantage they have because they process so many transactions. So they have a lot of consumer data and can do good with it. Looking at it from a consumer's perspective, sample size of 1, me, I feel like Mastercard is pretty secure. Because when I hear them, I don't immediately think fraud, scam, fraud, like with another company. PayPal. Am I being unfair to PayPal? Because that's kind of on their users. I probably am, but you know. Mastercard's income is high and their growth rate is strong, but they have a high PE ratio to match that. They are very stable and established, and they're growing internationally, but a government regulation could at any point destroy them. But what do you think of Mastercard? Like, sub. This is an annual report, the 10K form. You can read it if you want. Into a video form. Thank you for watching. If you want investment advice, don't look at me. I'm not your guy. You can maybe check out the SEC's Guide to Investing because that's from a reputable source and kind of qualified, I think. Goodbye, people.